Hi, it's the Chappiness guy. Welcome to today's episode of Vestibular Talks. Today's special guests are Jess and Esme. They both have vestibular conditions and are on the quest to provide support, validation, and information on all vestibular things with the creation of the new channel, the DC channel. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy the episode, guys. All right, ladies, we're live. How are you today?
Good.
Okay,
How are
thank
you?
you.
Good, good, good. So I'm going to
Thank you.
introduce Jess and Esme from the DC channel. Let's start with Jess. Jess, will you mind telling us a little bit about you and about your story?
Yeah, sure. Interrupt me if I'm going on a bit. But so this all started for me in November 2018. When it was like a normal day at work, and suddenly I felt really unwell, lightheaded. I felt like my ears were blocked. And I went to lots of ear doctors, tried lots of different medications, and I just couldn't shake this feeling of, I felt lightheaded, I had vertigo, I felt like I was basically on a boat the whole time. I just felt like I was swaying, which obviously so many people have. And then in like kind of mid 2019, I finally got referred to a neurologist just by luck, actually, and he diagnosed me with vestibular migraine, which was really helpful. I started on some medication, I started on some vestibular rehabilitation therapy, but I was still struggling with the symptoms whilst at work and things. And then later on in that year, I was referred on to other doctors because I think I just didn't accept what anyone was telling me. I just couldn't really believe that this is what was happening. So I just kept going to doctors. And then I got another diagnosis of triple PD, persistent postural perceptual dizziness. And that was also the time that I basically got signed off work on sick leave. So that was at the end of 2019, and I took 10 months off work because I just couldn't work with my symptoms.
Yeah.
And now I've just returned to work on a phased return. My symptoms are a lot better. I don't get vertigo anymore, but I really struggle with dissociation and photophobia. So just trying to now work through this next stage of it, I guess.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. We'll get more into depth as the interview goes on, because I have a few really good questions for you in your specific case. So
Okay, sure.
we'll talk about those. How about you, Esme? What's your story like?
Starts quite a long time ago when I was 17, so I'm 26 now. That's when I got labyrinthitis, or vestibular neuritis. I don't know exactly which one because they're both very similar. But so I actually had like a pulsing tinnitus sound in my ear for a few months, like on and off, and like sensitivity in one ear. Like I remember my friend's voice really hurting my ear. Like he has a really deep voice, and I was like, this is really weird. Why can't I listen to him speak anymore? So that was for a few months, and then I got like a bad flu, and then with that, I one morning woke up with like everything bouncing around and shifting around, which then like progressed into just like a rotating vertigo with like lots of being sick. Not very nice. So that went on for a couple of weeks, and I genuinely like thought I must have a brain tumor or something. I was really like scared because I just hadn't had anything like that before. I hadn't heard of it before. So, but then I went to the GP, and she was like, "Oh, this is quite common. It's labyrinthitis." I was like, "What?" She was like, "Oh, you're fine." So, and it basically did clear up, but I had quite a phobia of it coming back because it had scared me a lot.
Of course.
And it would sometimes it did recur like a year later. It did recur like after my first term at university, probably because I was so like burnt out from all the working and partying and stuff. I know, as you do. But then again, it did clear up. Like it didn't affect me day to day really. But then when I was 23, it did start to. I kind of had another episode of it one day when I had been having quite a stressful time, and then it didn't really fully resolve since then. So at that time I went to the ENT, and they said it was still the same thing, like still the same kind of nerve damage from the labyrinthitis, but my brain just wasn't like compensating in the way that it had before, probably because I'd been stressed. So he said, like, this should just clear up again, but maybe in your life it might flare up when you get stressed. I was like, oh, I can deal with that, I guess. But it actually just kind of persisted. It stopped being so extreme, like with the turning feeling, but it was just like a swaying feeling, like what Jezz said, like especially when I was sat still at work, like at the desk. So, but I didn't actually go back to the ENT, because then I went to a chiropractor and got a chiropractic adjustment, and then that started to really help to even out the symptoms. So I kind of just been managing it with that ever since. So I don't actually have a current diagnosis that fits, and after speaking to Jezz, I think probably I would be diagnosed with PPPD. That's what I would hope for, because it seems to fit my symptoms to me. But we'll see, because I'm going back in October actually, but it will be over the phone because of COVID. But we'll see what they can do over the phone.
So what's very interesting is that I was much like Jezz, in the sense that when this started happening to me last year, I went to many different doctors, and they would say no, it's vestibular migraines. I'm like, no. I'm like, how can a migraine cause all of this? So I kept going to different specialists, doing research, doing all these things, and eventually I got to a neurologist, and I told him, I'm like, some doctors brought the word PPPD, and he said, yes, he diagnosed me with vestibular migraines, and he said, honestly, the diagnosis is just a word. He's like, PPPD could potentially be the exact same thing as vestibular migraines. It's just different names. People know it by different things. But he's like, don't focus so much on the name itself of the condition, but so much on how the symptoms affect your life and what we can do to minimize those symptoms. So I relate to both of you in the sense of the swaying. I never really had like turning vertigo, like a spinning. It was more of balance, kind of like rocking sensation, and almost like I was on a boat, like or on a dock that kept moving back and forth. So, but it was never really spinning, because people with Meniere's disease, for example, they get bursts of a spinning vertigo, like they were going on a roller coaster.
Yeah, I don't have that either.
Yeah, me neither. So I feel that the three of us can qualify to maybe say vestibular migraines is what unites us in the sense of a diagnosis. So just mention medications. What kind of medications did they give you, and for how long do you try them?
So I was given a beta blocker, a type of beta blocker at first.
Yeah.
So that was last, when was that? It was like April 2019, and I'm actually still on those. And I've had to vary the dosage at different points. And then I was given, I've recently tried 2 different types of tricyclic antidepressants. I think that's what they're called. So a few months ago, I was given one, and I did struggle with a lot of the side effects. So then I saw a different neurologist, because I can't seem to stop going to different doctors. I don't know, I just, you're just always trying to find a different answer. And this recent doctor has now given me a different type of antidepressant, and I'm just kind of rolling with those. It's a bit confusing, because this recent doctor actually told me that he doesn't agree with beta blockers, but that I should still take them, which is quite a confusing message, because I'm like, why should I continue taking them then? So yeah, I guess I take 2 different types of medication every day at the moment, and I definitely do struggle with side effects. I don't know for sure if they help. I have no way of measuring whether they work or not. But I'm sticking with it for now. I don't see them as a long-term solution, but I don't want to rock the boat, as it were.
No pun intended.
But yeah, I know.
Awful joke. Sorry, I didn't mean it. I just sticking with it for now, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. The most common ones that they prescribe, the antidepressants, are amitriptyline and nortriptyline.
Yeah.
So amitriptyline seems to have a high rate of success, I guess. Yeah. However, the side effects seem to be more than compared to nortriptyline. Nortriptyline seems to work as well, but less side effects. I was prescribed amitriptyline, but I was terrified of taking it. So
Yeah.
I said not due to the side effects. But many people have had success stories with amitriptyline, and
Yeah.
and same with beta blockers like Effexor. Effexor is one that many people apparently have had good results with. Is the problem is that once you start taking it, our bodies become so dependent on those things that when we start trying to wean ourselves off the medication, our bodies bring on more symptoms in order to be like, hey, give me more. I want more of the medication. So that's part of the not only the side effects, but the withdrawn, like trying to withdraw from the medications, right? How about sorry?
I'm sorry, I was just going to say it's very hard because every time I feel something slightly strange, like I have really vivid dreams or a nightmare, or suddenly I just feel a bit off, you're just constantly trying to figure out if it's the medication, is it just another symptom, and it's this whole battle, and you just kind of have to, you never really know.
Juggle it, yeah. How about Esme? Esme, did they prescribe you any medications for your condition?
I have a bag of I can't remember what it's called. It starts with a P, and I think it's like the one that dissolves on your gum. I think it's kind of like an anti-motion sickness tablet, I think, but like a stronger one that you get on prescription.
Okay.
So I was given that just for like if it's ever really bad, but probably partly because I haven't been to that many different doctors, and partly because I found the chiropractic has helped. I just haven't really pursued medications, and I haven't been prescribed many, and I don't take many. But yeah, there was that one that I used to use sometimes, especially when it first got bad, because I feel like really sick a lot of the time, so I would sometimes take them.
Yeah.
But then it would make me feel a bit drowsy.
Yeah, that's part of a side effect. It makes you feel drowsy. What Jezs mentioned about the vivid nightmares or vivid dreams, also very common with many of those medications. Well? I do. Yes. It feels yes. So especially sometimes there are very vivid dreams, not necessarily nightmares.
Yeah.
But when they are nightmares, they are very scary because they feel very real. So we both, I mean, you ladies both discuss the rocking sensation. Jezs mentioned photophobia. What other symptoms do you guys experience? Brain fog. I know you mentioned brain fog. What about you mentioned dissociation as well? So anything else that you guys can kind of like relate to this specific condition, bringing on those symptoms that you never really experienced before?
There's so many, but I'm going blank now that I've been asked.
Phonophobia, the sensitivity to sound.
Yeah, Esme mentioned that. Yeah,
that was a massive one. Yeah, that's when I first started getting the chronic, like the persistent issues. That was one of the worst things, is that it was just physically painful to be like in a restaurant, for example, where like cutlery was being put away by the waitress, or like definitely like being in a bar or something with loud music. I was just like, how is anyone enjoying this? Like I was just in pain. I was like, how did I used to enjoy this? So that was a big one.
I think memory loss. I mean, I put this down to my vestibular condition. In a way, I hope it is, because otherwise I'm just worried generally that I can't remember anything. But I think it's gotten worse, and I didn't actually know that you could suffer kind of cognitive difficulties. I hadn't realized, but I definitely feel like my short-term memory, like something I've just done, or like yesterday, if I've had a conversation, it's a complete blank. I think other people have suffered from the same. I don't know if you get that, but that's a really difficult one.
People do say that because your vestibular system's working harder, that the rest of your like brain functions just go a bit slower sometimes, unless you know, especially if you push yourself too hard.
Now, something that it seems okay. So something that seems quite interesting is that many people that get these vestibular conditions are around the same age group, usually between 25 to 35. It's the biggest group that I found. Also, most people get an episode when they are in their teenage years. So that's why, Esme, when you mentioned around 17 years of age, I had an episode when I was 15, but it lasted only a couple of months. and they thought it was an ear infection. But now that I'm living this right now, I see it was maybe a pre-episode to this big episode that I'm living right now. So,
Yeah.
do you ladies consider that maybe something that causes this could be hormonal changes, because teenage years, then again in your 30s, and then some people again get it in their late 50s or early 60s? Do you feel that there is a component that has to do with hormonal changes in our bodies that activates something, triggers something, or throws something off, and then our nervous system releases whatever into our bodies? Or what do you think?
I think it's very possible. I don't like, I know some people notice fluctuations in their hormones, like if you're someone who has monthly cycles. I don't particularly see a pattern with that, but I can definitely believe that, like, when you get the big change in life, like with puberty, that could bring something on. But for me, it seemed so sudden, and it seemed like nothing major had changed in my life, and it was just, yeah. But yeah, it definitely makes sense, doesn't it? Especially because I don't know if this is correct, but I think women are more affected, and I was wondering if that
Yes.
was because of hormones, and also
Yeah.
it can sometimes be worsened by pregnancy, I think, or
Yes.
brought on by pregnancy, which again is a major hormonal thing. So it's definitely something that maybe we'll find out more about in the future.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'd never really made the connection to my teen years. I did have a kind of some episodes of dissociation. I'm feeling like lightheaded during my teenage years. But I didn't actually ever put that down to puberty. I just thought it was maybe like the stress of school. I don't know how stressful school was. But and that kind of thing. But it's interesting that you say you found most people are between the kind of 25 to 35
35.
age group, because I think when I first joined Facebook groups and things, I thought people were mostly much older, and that I felt quite isolated from that as well. So yeah, I guess you go through hormonal fluctuations throughout your life, really, so it makes sense.
Yeah. The symptom of dissociation or derealization or depersonalization, it's so hard to explain because
Yeah.
it's not many people are familiar with it, and the ones that are, they don't really know how to explain it. So in my case, it felt like I was trapped in my body, like I was in a dream-like a state where I can almost, it's almost like my soul could see my body, like I was in automatic, like I'm
Yeah.
functioning in automatic mode, but I'm not myself. Thankfully, I don't really experience that much anymore. Most of my symptoms are the dizziness, of course, the consistent dizziness, and the visual symptoms. I have, from what I've learned, is that the dissociation comes from a few things. Number one, medication. So certain medications like amitriptyline or nortriptyline or beta blockers, for example, can activate something in your brain that makes you feel disconnected from your body. So that could be part of a side effect. So don't be too afraid of that. Like it might be just part of what you're experiencing it because you're on the medication.
Yeah.
Also, we are part in the experience it because of trauma. So when something is traumatic, our brain kind of like goes into this bubble that says, hey, I'm going to protect myself. And it makes you see like everything is surreal, like it's part of a dream. So how I decided to basically combat that is by calming down my nervous system with breathing exercises, taking freezing cold showers. Ladies, every day I take a freezing cold shower, and
Wow.
it sucks. It really sucks,
Oh.
but it impacts. It shocks your brain because your brain is like, whoa, why are we in this freezing water? So it kind of like connects again to your body senses to be like, whoa, you start shivering, you start trembling. So those might be little things: yoga, meditation, breathing, the cold showers that maybe you ladies can implement. But that's my experience. How about you? How? Let's start with Jess. How do you face, or how do you function on a daily basis with this dissociation?
Yeah, I'm not sure I do it very well, actually. I really, really struggle with this. I think it's one of the worst aspects. It's been one of the worst aspects for me because I never feel like I'm there, or I never feel like myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the beginning I wasn't explaining it in the right way. I kept saying to people that I couldn't see properly, and then but I could, like, I actually have quite good vision, and I just couldn't explain that I can see, but I also kind of can't, like it's blurry, and so things like calling yourself a third party observer on a situation have been, those are kind of helpful things. I just try to, I think I've just gotten very used to it, but I also try and just like stay really calm if I feel like it's a heightened moment of disassociation, and that's, I also do the breathing exercises because I feel like I'm centering myself in that moment,
Yeah.
or I'm just kind of bringing myself back to my body and like focus, just kind of trying to be a bit more present, I guess. I think for a while I avoided a lot of situations that definitely made it worse, so like busy places,
Yeah.
or kind of, I don't know, maybe social situations where it's all like very new and overwhelming. I thought that was making it worse. I think like those things are better now, and I will go to a supermarket, and it's, I think I've just gotten used to it. I'm not sure, aside from the breathing and meditation, that I've actually been able to help that symptom very much.
Mhm.
Um, Closing my eyes, like taking time out, that kind of thing. Distraction also helps, I think. So maybe if I'm like start just doing an activity or like watching TV or whatever, I find that can help as well.
Okay.
I don't know about Esme though.
Esme, what do you think?
Yeah, I find this one really interesting because, like what you were saying about trauma, because I had really strong dissociation for the first time, like just after I finished university, which um, I actually also had a few like days of like vertigo in that year, but which obviously freaked me out because I always had this fear of it becoming chronic, and then it did, so that's nice. But it didn't that year. They were just like isolated moments where I was having the vertigo, and like I didn't connect the two at all, and I thought I was depressed, and I probably was depressed, probably both, but like, that was before I'd ever had a big relapse of vertigo. That was before I'd ever taken any medications. So I see it as quite an emotional thing. Like I kind of label it as an emotional response. So to hear it like described as a symptom of vestibular conditions actually does make sense as well, because possibly I was very slowly developing the condition, like you said. Like possibly it was years in the making, and that's why I was starting to have some dissociation as well. Um, so it's really hard to know what causes what, isn't it? I guess I've kind of let go of the question a bit, to just try and, it helps to just try not to obsess about what's causing what. But one of the main things that helps me when it's happening is, again, like the emotional connection thing. Like if I tell someone, there aren't many people that I would talk to about it, but if I tell my partner, then that instantly sometimes like dissolves it a bit, because it means that I'm like, even if I can't quite like see my reality, like someone is seeing my reality for me, and that like makes me feel like more like I exist, like I'm real.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then it's interesting you're talking about the nervous system, because I don't think a lot of people know, but chiropractic is to do with the nervous system as well. So I felt this huge like nervous system release when I had my first adjustment. I think it's your parasympathetic nervous system. It gives you this like
Yeah.
amazing calm feeling because of like, it's long, but the nerves in the neck and like the brainstem and everything. So that's one of my main like nervous system treatments, is that I get my adjustments, and then also breathing helps me a lot as well. But I've always struggled with anxiety and things, and it is hard to know what's connected. But I am quite like practiced, from a young age at being like, I'm feeling anxious now, I'm having an anxiety attack. But it's taken a bit longer to then apply that to like being dizzy or having dissociation or having anything vestibular. But they are really similar, actually.
Yeah. Something that I did notice as well is that many people that I've interviewed that have these vestibular conditions, many of our personalities are very similar. We're very perfectionist in a sense. We're very hard thinkers. Like we overthink things a lot, but we're also very charismatic. We're also very connected with emotions and sensations, like a sixth sense type of thing. Like we very like a lot of us very much when we meet someone, you kind of like get that energy of like, if that
Yeah.
person is a bad person or a good person. Like it's like your intuition type of stuff can sense things. We're also very vivid dreamers. Like our dreams are almost like we're living in a movie type of thing. So it seems like many of us have a lot of things in common. Another thing that I found is that for many of us, certain things trigger us. Like many people that I've interviewed off the record, I'm not going to mention names. They said that they don't like consuming marijuana or any type of drug because it enhances symptoms. It makes them feel like they are not in control. Many of them don't like to drink coffee. They like coffee, but they try to avoid it because they feel that like their heartbeat accelerates. Many of the symptoms accelerate. So when they say those things to me, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I relate to those things. So it seems like a lot of us have more in common to each other than just symptoms. So it's interesting to know that something in our personalities, something in our bodies, something in our minds, somehow makes us more prone to these vestibular conditions or more. Um,
Yeah.
something that I like to ask you, ladies, is how do you guys get connect? How do you get connected with each other? Like, how do you find each other and started the DC channel? Like, how did that start?
So one of my colleagues at work knows Esme from university and through mutual friends. And one day she said to me that someone's like Esme's posted on. I know someone who's posted on Instagram. She seems to be suffering from vertigo and some of the things that you're suffering from. And Esme's post was about chiropractic care at the time. So my friend was saying, "Oh, look, she's found this helpful. You could try it." And this was at the end of last year, and I totally ignored it. Politely thanked her, and I was like, "No, I'm not interested in." I just didn't want to talk to anyone about it.
Yeah.
I was like on my kind of treatment plan, and I didn't want to engage with it in any other way, so I ignored it. And then recently I've been more in the mood to talk about it, really be a bit more of an advocate for myself and connect with other people in the community. So I revisited those texts that my friend said, and then reached out to Esme with like a really strange message, just like telling her all of my symptoms and being like, "Please, can we talk?" And we then had like a 2.5-hour phone call, and I think we just decided to collaborate. And it seemed like something was holding both of us back. Like we both wanted to be in this space of vestibular advocacy and talk about it and raise awareness and provide support, but we just both needed that push. And I think maybe like collaborating was actually that push, which is really nice. I was too scared to do anything alone, so it's a new thing for me doing it with someone else. So yeah, that's our story.
Yeah, I'd been planning on doing something. Well, this is how I am. I kind of like sit on an idea for months and months and probably never end up doing it. So it's been good it was good for me to have someone else to work on it with, because I had an idea to like share more, which is why I had done that post that Jez's friend Heather saw, but I didn't. That was like one post I did like almost a year before, and then I like never mentioned it again. And interestingly, Jezs said that like when she read the post, she was like, "Oh, this person's like got it all resolved, and I don't want to like, I almost can't engage with that," which was funny for me to hear, because I didn't even mean to convey that in the post. Like I still very much did not have it all together. Like it was still affecting me daily. So yeah, that was interesting. But I equally like it's completely understandable to have resistance around like sharing and engaging, even though you have the urge to as well, because it's just scary to think like you might have to reassess your journey, and like it is scary. You think that you're going to feel like all these difficult things, but actually it's just been completely lovely. She's great.
Yeah. And it's amazing that you ladies are both raising awareness, because there is a stigma around invisible illnesses that like looking at the two of you right now, you look perfectly healthy, you look perfectly happy, you look perfectly fine, but nobody understands the struggle and the personal hell that you're living inside of you right now. So how was that part of the journey for the two of you, whether telling your special someone or your family members or your friends? How was it basically trying to explain to them, listen, I know I look normal in the outside, but I'm living this terrifying condition in the inside. So how do you try to explain it to them, or what was their reaction? Let's start with Esme.
To be honest, I just didn't really, like, I just failed myself on that front, like, for a long time. But I know why. It's because I couldn't really face it myself either. So I was kind of like living a bit of a split life in a way. Like, I was kind of getting on with everything as normal, but then just suffering a lot all the time. I did tell some people, but I found it very difficult, because even when you've got that courage up to say something, because I've always felt embarrassed about, I don't like, no one likes having to explain something that's like unusual and confusing. And so when I would sometimes manage to do it, people still often didn't get it, and like I then would just retreat and not really like push it, which I should have done, and now I understand more how to do that. So yeah, to be honest, I didn't really work it out how to do it for a long time. I've made massive progress even just meeting Jezs, because it's really validating to share those experiences and realize that it's like a real thing I've been going through, and that there's no need to be embarrassed about it. So yeah, I guess, yeah, that's my answer.
All right, what about you, Jezs?
Yeah, I can relate a lot to that, just kind of not facing it. I don't actually think I realized I had an invisible illness. I didn't identify with that community. Like, I didn't realize that I was part of that, actually, until quite more recently. I kind of fumbled through it, really. I was always very transparent with my partner, and that wasn't difficult. Other friends and family, it was really difficult. And I think the hardest thing was just explaining to people, sometimes I can show up to a birthday party and be okay, but in an hour I might not be, and I might need to leave. And it was, I think I ended up, I don't really know if it's oversharing, but I just gave a lot of detail. Like, before I was going to a friend's birthday or whatever, I'd end up sending these like essays of like explaining the ins and outs, and like rereading it, and then like, have I overshared, or like, do they need more, like all this kind of stuff. And then I think I found a more happy medium, which was just being quite upfront with people, and like, this is just how it is. I might not be able to do this. I know I look fine. Like, just saying those words, I know I look fine, but I don't feel fine. Especially with my family, I think just saying it, just saying exactly what I was feeling, and not trying to kind of cover it with like lots of detail. And I would apologize, and like apologize to myself, and really put myself down. And now I feel like I'm able to own that more. And equally, as Esme said, speaking to Esme about it has been so validating. Just all like this whole community, watching any like these videos, and anyone who's in the kind of advocacy space, just listening to someone else actually say, like, I know I look like this, but I can't tell you, like, the room is spinning at the moment. Just it was validating, I think.
And it's good that we're raising this kind of awareness. You ladies with the DC channel, what I'm doing, Vida, of course. Are you guys familiar with the Vestibular Disorder Association?
Yeah.
Yes. So there is also a Vestibular Warrior. Many people are raising awareness, because it's very important, because many of us feel lonely and isolated at the beginning when this is happening, and many people think their life is over. Well, many doctors dismiss it as anxiety. Many doctors just said, "Oh, you're anxious," or just take the medication and stop being so anxious. But it's not just anxiety; is the fact that this is so unknown. You don't know what your life is gonna be like. You don't know if you're gonna get better. You don't know if the dizziness is going to stop. So of course we're anxious, but there is a reason why we're anxious, and the doctors need to work on helping us overcome that anxiety. Sorry, Esme, you were gonna say something.
What was I going to say? I was just going to say, it's a completely natural response to feeling vertigo is fear. Like, that's the first thing I felt when I first got vertigo. Like, because you don't know what's happening, and that's not how life normally is. Like, normally you just, you can like turn your head and your vision is fine. Like, it's just a complete. I can't think of many things more weird to experience, and so it's bizarre that the mental health element isn't more up there with doctors who are treating it. And like you said, it's at the other end of the spectrum, where they're like, oh, this is purely anxiety based, which isn't correct either. So there's a long way to go on that. I was also going to say, I remember like using the word unreachable. Like I remember probably like this time last year, like having a flare up and kind of crying to my partner and being like, I just feel unreachable. You know, even with the person that you're closest with, I felt like I was sort of down a hole or something, and he couldn't get to me because he couldn't feel what I was feeling. Not that I would want him to.
No, yeah, of course not. Yeah.
I'd rather I was just not feeling it as well.
Yeah.
And it is. I think, and then you know, you have these such intense moments, and then you kind of recover again, and then you look fine, and then you kind of meet up with friends or whatever, and you just kind of doubt your reality a bit, and also obviously don't expect you to be having such dark moments either because you're kind of looking fine. So yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah. Now let's talk about recovery and getting better. So treatments, we already mentioned medication. What about VRT therapy or vestibular rehabilitation therapy? I from talking to you ladies, Esme said that she went to university, she was able to manage that. Jezs mentioned that she's going to work again. So do you feel that submerging yourself again into school, into work, it helps you guys kind of like hang on to the normal life, to our normal feeling, some sort of normal in your life?
It's really tricky because going back to work for me did I experienced a flare up of my symptoms as well, so I was kind of really trying to figure out, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? The one thing I do like, kind of as you're saying, is I just like having a different focus to my week, because before I was just finding every single day I was just so focused on my symptoms, just getting through the day, like my whole world, I feel like I can't see outside the vestibular world anymore, and that's fine. Like that is just kind of who I am now, and that's fine. But I did find, because they also say sometimes focusing too much on your symptoms can enhance them, which then really stresses me out, because I'm kind of like, well, if I'm feeling really bad, like of course I'm going to think about it. But I've just enjoyed feeling like there's a different purpose to my day. And certainly like with Dizzy Channel stuff that we're doing now, it's just so nice to be thinking about something else and to feel like I can still do things and still like achieve things and produce things and, you know, still be a supportive person and that kind of thing, despite also just feeling not great a lot of the time. I've really enjoyed just having something else to think about.
Yeah. Shall I go?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got ill after university, so I would not be able to do a degree now with that.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you thought that I'd done it after getting ill. So I did it when I was fine, fine-ish, but I didn't have vertigo. But yeah, with work, it's been really difficult. I suppose it does help on the mental health level, because you kind of come home and you've like had, I don't know, some social interactions, or you've had to show up and like do something that feels normal. So that does help sometimes, but like generally, I think generally what helps me more is seeing people I like seeing and doing nice things. I think that really like gets your nervous system into a good place. So that's a good distraction and a good focus for me. It's like being with someone that have a really nice chat with someone or something. Generally, like with work, the pressure of having something to do, regardless of how I feel, like I have to show up and do it, that's just makes me feel my symptoms worse most of the time, to be honest. But you know, but that's why I've changed jobs as well, so that it's a bit less of a pressured environment that I'm in. But yeah, the Dizzy Channel has been a nice thing, because obviously we're like choosing to do that, and it's a really positive thing, and it comes quite naturally to us, because obviously we're talking about our own experiences. Ironically, like sometimes we both find that if we work too hard, then we get more dizzy, so that's obviously not the aim. But it's, you know, yeah, but it's obviously like it's in our control, which is really nice. That's not something you can get with most jobs, so like we love that.
Yeah. What about people talk about a lot about diet and supplements. I am a firm believer that diet does affect how we feel. Whatever we put into our bodies is who we are. So I made a complete change in my diet. It's very restrictive, which sucks because I'm pretty much eating grass and water every day. But I limit, like I got rid of gluten, I got rid of dairy, I got rid of eggs. I read the medical medium books, so a lot of these protocols I follow, which is like the detoxification smoothies, things like that. What about you, ladies? Do you find that eating anything triggers more, or have you found that diet doesn't really affect your symptoms? Let's start with Esme.
For a long time, I was like, I'm sure diet's not that important because I just loved eating junk food. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to hope that's not true. But like reluctantly, I have finally started to be like, okay, maybe it is relevant. And I read a really good book recently called Fiber Fueled, which is all about like how good plants are for us and how important fiber is for like our gut health. So that's inspired me to eat a lot more nourishing foods. I still have some like junk foods too, but it's less like my diet is less based around them and more around like nourishing food, and that is helping a lot with like mental clarity and energy. I don't think it's necessarily reduced vertigo that much, but having those symptoms lessen is really nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you, Jess?
So I'm kind of like Esme, I avoided this for a long time. I just didn't want to believe that I would have to control my food in any way. I just thought, no, I'm fine. And then my most recent doctor has kind of suggested an elimination diet. So I'm not as restricted as your diet. Like I'm not plant-based, but I have cut out things like chocolate and citrus, or other things like specific fruit, like bananas and also eggs.
Yeah.
I've only been doing it for just over a month, so I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if you struggle with this as well, but I find it very difficult to figure out if it's making a difference because, you know, if I am feeling better overall, that could also be because of all the other things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe I'll only know when I start to reintroduce specific things, and then if I'm feeling worse, then maybe I'll know. I find it, yeah, and it's fine. I mean, it's okay, especially now we're at home so much, so there's kind of a lot more control over what you're eating. But it is hard when you go out, and it's, you know, it's not a big problem, but it's just also hard to explain to other people that can we maybe not go here because I can't eat anything there, or can we just not go out at all actually because I just want to have a bit more control. I'm not totally sold on it yet. I know lots of people benefit, but I think I just don't want to believe it because I really want some chocolate. But yeah, we'll see. I'm at this stage. I kind of got to the stage where I was like, I've got to give anything a go. So yeah.
So
So
as
add something, sorry.
yeah,
I
go ahead.
do definitely notice that like the more artificial the food I'm eating, the more I will get symptoms. Like if I have, again, this is like me being so sensitive, like we were saying earlier, because I have it with caffeine as well. But even if I have like a can of Coke, I generally do feel a bit worse a few hours later, and I'm always like, damn it, thought I could get away with it. So if something's got loads of like chemicals in it, that does seem to affect me. Like sugar, not as much. I seem to have built up quite a good resistance to sugar in the last, like, over my life. But yeah, anything chemically, like it does, I do notice it. And people say like, oh, you must be imagining that. I'm like, no, it's the same every time. I'm not imagining it.
Yeah, you find
Even
you
decaf
find out
coffee.
yeah. That's so as you ladies know, this is called the Find Your Chappiness channel. So how do you find your chappiness? What do you do that makes you happy? What about Jess? Let's start with Jess. How do you find your chappiness?
I think at the moment it's just spending time with people who like surround me with positive people, like positive energy. I totally think I've got that sixth sense as well that you were talking about. And I think what makes me happy is just kind of the simple things now. I've really learned to appreciate just kind of spending time with like friends, family, even if it's just kind of at home doing wholesome things. I really appreciate that. and still like getting out when I can and going for walks. Like that makes me really happy, just like seeing the outdoors and still being able to enjoy it, appreciate it, and just staying connected with people as well. That I definitely am an extrovert, and that's where I get my energy from. Yeah, I think that's what's keeping me happy at the moment, being around the right people.
Good. What about you, Esme?
I think it's probably the same. But just so that my answer is not exactly the same, I also do I also do a bit of music and songwriting, so that makes me happy. But I can't seem to like plan it though. Like if I sit down and go, I'm going to try and do it now, it doesn't tend to work. But when I get the urge to do that, that's always makes me feel really, really good and like very much more connected and less dissociated and stuff. And also just listening to music. I pretty much always have music on, like if I'm washing up or something, and that always makes it much more fun, even if I'm doing something really boring.
Esme's got a great voice. She's really good at singing.
I'm not trying to plug my music, by the way.
Fangirl.
Subtle plug. No. That's always really nice. Doing things like that, like doing something creative.
Okay. Where can people find you, ladies? If somebody wants to talk to you, somebody wants to find the DC channel, somebody wants to find more experience, more knowledge about you guys, where can they find you?
On the Instagram, it's at the Dizzy.channel. Although if you just search Dizzy channel, it probably comes up as well.
Yeah, I think it does.
And then on Facebook, we're also on Facebook as the Dizzy channel. That's it for the moment, isn't it? Yeah.
At the moment, but watch this space.
All right. And what would you ladies like to say to the people that are watching this interview and they feel that they've tried everything and anything and they don't seem to be getting better? They feel that their life will always be dark, that there is not a way out of this. What would you like to say to those kind of people?
I would just say that I completely understand what you're feeling, and you're not making it up, and it's totally real, and it's horrible sometimes, or a lot of the time, but it is possible to kind of feel happiness and see the light again. And I know maybe if someone was saying that to me, I just wouldn't believe them, but it really is true. And those moments of darkness aren't permanent. Like they might come and go, but it is temporary. And I don't know what the magic thing is. There isn't like one magic pill, sadly, but you're also doing all the right things. Just don't give up, because it's really worth just, continuing, and also just make sure you're talking to people as well, because like I said, you're not alone, and there is a whole community out there. And if anyone ever wants support, they can also message us, and we'd be happy to chat.
Yeah.
Nice. Esme, anything you'd like to add?
I would just say, like, even though it can be hard in the moment to do this, like try and treat yourself as if you are going through something big and traumatic, rather than trying to just push through. Although if that's what you need to do to cope in the moment, I get that, because that was probably the same for me. But if you're questioning yourself and thinking, oh, is this really that big a deal? Like, yes, if it feels like a big deal, then it is, and you have every right to nurture yourself and make changes, and stop doing the things that are making it worse, and just try and like find some relief and comfort. Like that should be your first priority, and then everything else you can work out. I mean, it's easier said than done, because there are so many like practical pressures on us all the time, like earning money and things. But if you can try to prioritize your health, then I would say do that. Also, I always recommend trying chiropractic. It won't obviously solve everything, and it won't be right for everyone, but not many people know that chiropractors treat vertigo, so I always want to like get that message out there as well.
Okay, awesome. So thank you so much, ladies, for the interview. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'm gonna go take my free. So wish me luck.
Good luck.
It was lovely to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I hope we stay connected, and then I'll keep following you guys at the DC channel to find out more about your journeys and all the people that you're gonna help.
Yeah, likewise.
Oh, thank you. It's been great to chat.
All right, bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.